Okay, good afternoon, NAVFAC Southeast. Captain Jorge Cuadros, your commanding officer, accompanied by our executive officer, Captain Tom Bastaf.
Hello.
And our business director, Mr. Jeff Killian. Having our my second all hands virtually, this time to talk about the Defense Equal Opportunity Survey. The Defense Organizational Climate Survey, also known as DEOCS, is mandated by Congress to be conducted by all new commanders and commanders at a certain periodicity, like a 1 year point, to get a gauge on the command climate. Within the Navy, it is governed by OMNAV Instruction 5354-1 Golf, and once again, it's mandatory. Back in September, you started getting emails about completing the survey. I'm happy to report that we had great participation. This year, under the DEOCS used to fall under Defense Equal Opportunity Management Institute. This year, that changed, and it's now managed by the Office of the Undersecretary of Defense Personnel and Readiness and the Office of People and Analytics. And now they administer the DEOCS. So if you have seen you have taken a previous version of the DEOCS, you probably noticed this year some of the looks and the format changed. That's why. The Office of People Analytics retooled the survey and resulting, as I said before, in a new format. So our survey, our 2020 DEOCS survey, the overview, as I said before, we conducted the survey between 8 and 25 September. This is within a certain time frame after change of command, after taking command, to establish a baseline of the climate, as a result of the change of command. I said before, we had great participation. We had about 57% of you participate, and I consider that a great success. So I want to thank you personally for taking the survey. If you've ever read a DEOCS, it's a very voluminous document. It's very long, very thick. But I read from cover to cover, and I read every comment. So I wanted you to know that I personally did that. Now, the staff that helped me kind of put it together, condense it, analyze it, and do some analytics on it, helped me by grouping together similar comments to provide key takeaways. XO emailed a copy of the slides that I'm following today. You'll see that what we sent is not very long. It's really meant for all of you to be able to read it quickly and see our approach. So on the last of the 4 slides that we emailed, you see that we aligned it with my command philosophy and the guiding principles. So I'll go through those real quick just to ensure that you understand, as I go through the takeaways, that you know that I was following what I set the command to do through my command philosophy. So my first guiding principle was to sustain and enable the fleet and the warfighter. My second guiding principle was to maximize infrastructure readiness, and my third one was to strengthen our team. Under those guiding principles, I have several sub-bullets of goals and achievements that I hope we get to in the next couple of years. So what were the key takeaways from the DEOCS survey? The first one is, we're going to implement new ways to improve communications. For some time, through different means, but most constantly through the ESG, I've communicated that this new environment, this environment that we were subject to in 2020, as well as really any environment, anytime you want to do enact improvement in an organization, you need to look at ways to communicate differently. You need to ensure that the message is being received in different ways so that everyone gets it, and maybe through repetition a couple times, everyone understands it. You all know that again 2020 has been filled with challenges in terms of our ability to interact directly in person. So we've been under a significant amount of telework. And also we've done significant improvements. I call them improvements in the way we communicate, despite the conditions that COVID-19 brought to us. So MS Teams, our ability to do an all hands via Facebook, stuff that maybe other people were doing before, other entities. We certainly had not tried it, but I think this was a success, and here we are today capitalizing on that capability. So like that, we in the future need to continue to implement new ways to sustain and improve our communications, because the mission will continue. And wherever we are, whether we're working in the office spaces or back at home, we need to continue supporting the fleet to sustain and enable the fleet and the warfighters. The second takeaway was to leverage telework to accomplish mission during the pandemic and what we're calling, quote unquote, the new normal. So we're really, right now we're governed by an existing instruction that we're really utilizing the section that says, unless otherwise approved by the commanding officer, to navigate through the last few months, right? So I'm not going to, tell you specifics of the current instruction. You all know that, it was limited to a number of days, conditions that were conducive to a good work environment at home, and also the type of work. Again, COVID-19, forced us to stretch that and to, look at things from a different perspective and to approach it from another lens. And so, here we are today, having proven that, there are a number of things that we could do in the telework environment. So we need to continue to leverage those capabilities and that ability. Again, I've said before, I think in the last all hands I mentioned, I think there will be kind of three bins of ways to accomplish this, right? As we look at every position, there's no cookie cutter solution for this, but I think in general terms, there'll be people that are, the majority of the time, if not full time at work. There are people that we determine that are able to do their work remotely, full time or nearly full time. And then there's people that are going to fall somewhere in the middle of, having a physical presence in the office and working the remainder of the time from home. So we're writing that instruction right now. It's not, ready for publication just yet. Understand that we've got a number of variables that are affecting that, to include the potential for an overall, around the Navy, footprint reduction administratively. So that means that every command is being asked to take a look at their space that they occupy today and reduce a certain amount of that footprint. So that's part of the reason why the instruction is not finalized, because we need to factor all those things that in the next few weeks, if not a couple months, we're going to have visibility over and be able to make better decisions about it. But the reality is, as I said before, and as a bottom line statement is, we are going to have to leverage more telework. So I anticipate the new normal will have more telework than we had before. And because, again, we proved it, we can do it. I don't think that every series is eligible for it completely, but I think we can achieve at some solution that incorporates everything we're proving to ourselves to be able to do, as well as the variables that will directly affect. What the new normal is, I don't know yet. I wish I could tell you. Good news is there's a vaccine out there now. Very, very early stages of distribution, but the outlook is promising. But we all know, and if you don't know, I'm telling you today, there's things after COVID passes, after it's under control, are going to be different than they were before COVID. So you keep that in mind, and that's what we talk about in new normal. Still under quotations, because once we define it, then we will know what that exactly looks like. The third takeaway is to model and expect professional behavior at all times. So what's this mean? First, I expect everyone to behave and to model, as the statement says, the best of the character attributes that NAVFAC put out in their kilogram. I've asked at every level, through the PWDs, through the ESG, through the boardrooms, to talk about these character traits on a constant basis. Those are just the foundation for what I call treating people with dignity and respect. Again, I want to tell you, and the DOCs, pointed to some items that may need correction, may need addressing, and may need improvement. But my expectation from everyone, of everyone, is that they behave with the utmost integrity, and that we all treat each other with dignity and respect. And you all should expect to receive the same from everyone around you in this workplace. So again, I can't stress enough, model and expect professional behavior at all times. The fourth takeaway is to hold ourselves and each other accountable at all times. I can tell you from my perspective, when I'm meeting with the ESG, I've asked them to be open, to discuss the hard issues, again, with dignity and respect towards each other, soft, while being soft in each other, to be tough on issues. Because that's how we hold ourselves accountable. And I've also said in different forums that none of us should ever walk by wrong without correcting it or addressing it on the spot. Because it's by not addressing things on the spot that things become larger issues. And so again, my commitment from the top down, and my expectation of you as you hold ourselves and each other accountable at all times. It's a catchy phrase, but it says doing the right thing at all times, right? Not just when somebody's looking. And again, going back to my example of the ESG, I've also asked them to ensure that everyone's held accountable, even the three of us being up here. If somebody sees any of us doing anything wrong, we need to be called out on. So there are no exceptions, and everyone needs to be above board. The fifth one is to ensure our workforce has the right tools and materials to perform their tasks. So that's my commitment to you. I will tell you that there are some constraints. It should not be a surprise to you that as a result of the change in the financial system, as a result of the consolidation of BSOs from NAVFAC and CNIC to one BSO, as a result of a change in the financial accounting, our budget not only is very it's limited, it always is, but it's also highly scrutinized, right? So even with money, we need to do the right thing. But for as long as we can afford it, my commitment is to ensure that our workforce has the right tools and materials to perform the tasks. This has many meanings. It's not just the physical tools to say repair a facility. It's also the tools that our engineers and scientists and other professionals need to do their jobs. And the last key takeaway from the DOC survey that we logged on the to-do list is to improve our work processes to become more efficient. This is one where I could list 100 at least. But as I say that, I know that I need to be cognizant that we've got a day job to do. But really, this is a call for self-improvement. We have a great tool called the CEO suggestion box. And I think the CEO suggestion box may be right now underutilized in terms of suggestions. And so I really encourage you all to, I said I can think of 100. Those are from my perspective. I think the best suggestions in terms of process improvement can come from you. Those that are, the actual doers, the people that are, turning the wrenches, whether it's physically or, metaphorically, to provide products and services to the fleet. So, I look forward to, more of that. Again, from my perspective, the ESG will likely be the group that helps me, condense that and have it workable. We have already a good list. It's about 6 or 7 AEP items. 6, if I recall correctly. 6. Mm-hmm. And so that's our to-do list from the ESG on down. If we haven't published that, we're going to publish that, very soon, so you all are aware of what we're working on. But that is exactly what we're doing at the core, at my level, to ensure that we improve work processes to become more efficient. But like that, every business line, support line, every PWD will have processes like that you don't need my permission, blessing, to improve on, as long as you stay within, the buoys or left and right lateral limits of what you're allowed and have the authority to do. That will allow each and every shop, PWD, business line, etc., work group to improve. So that is the end of what I intended to brief you on. I will now pause to allow the Excel and BD to make additional comments. Excel, you want to add anything?
Skipper, I would just offer, regarding the AEP initiative, we'll get that out, and we'll also publish the location, the URL, where you can find the CO suggestion box. It's on the NAVFAC portal. But we'll use our communications tools to get that out to everybody. Other than that, standing by for any other questions anybody might have.
Okay. So we'll pause and see. We have somebody attending the Facebook page. If you have any questions, please log them on there, and I'll stand by. Okay, so the first question, and I mentioned this during my remarks, will the command offer vaccinations when they become available, similar to providing the flu shot in years past? So the short answer is yes, but. So there's a SecDef notice, there's a Secretary of Defense notice that was dated December 7th in anticipation of the distribution of the vaccine. That states that DoD civilians, employees who are not otherwise eligible DoD beneficiaries are eligible to receive the vaccine. Follow-on care, other than the administration of the second vaccine dose, will be provided through such means as existing healthcare plans or personal healthcare providers.
Yes. The one thing that I would add to that is, in years past, NAVFAC Southeast, for example, here at the core, was able to get someone to physically come and provide the flu shot. Given the strict control procedures for the coronavirus vaccine, the current one that is available, the negative 90 Fahrenheit temperature requirements, we're not going to be able to provide those at our workplaces. So you will have to go to your local hospital, medical treatment facility, et cetera, to get those vaccinations. And to underscore right now, it's only being done on a volunteer basis for emergency personnel, healthcare responders, and the like. And I think for the foreseeable future, it will only be volunteers. And we will, of course, publish and share with everyone when we get further details about as the vaccine becomes more widespreadly, more available. Sorry.
Correct. Yeah. So, at the Navy-wide level, so Exo is spot on. So, you read the news, it's being distributed. If you think of everyone that needs to receive it, and within DoD, only so many were distributed. And then as you further divide that into the different services, Navy received only so many. And as you cascade that down to each location, command, etc., the ones that have arrived here in Jacksonville is a very finite number. So while I think there's anxiety over, when, just I would say just, stay tuned. We're going to provide all the info that we receive out to you all. And as, EXO stated, right now, and so one thing I didn't mention, I apologize, the vaccine needs to be stored and maintained in very, very strict, under very, very strict environmental conditions. The space here at the hospital is limited. So with the number that were given, they're basically taking care of, as EXO mentioned, first responders, to include medical personnel, and then somewhere down the tiers will be us. So stand by, and we will not hold any information that you should have from you. Okay, the next question, very important, and I know it might be on everyone's minds, or at least, one of you. So last pulse, I sent some info on, the budget and how the budget process works every year. It could have been a reminder for, many of you, but maybe some of you didn't know how it works. So Friday, another continuing resolution act was signed for a week. It expires tomorrow. The question is, if the FY21 federal budget is not signed by tomorrow, December 18th, will I be furloughed? So what I can share on this is the following. First, I trust that our lawmakers and our executive branch will do the right thing in the end. But if we're not able to get this done by tomorrow, there was a notice that was sent out last Friday, and the same notice would go out again tomorrow. So, we're busy, number one, watching to see what happens, back in DC, and two, preparing for, what might be the outcomes. But I remain, optimistic. That's just my nature. That again, our government will do the right thing. All right. Okay, yeah, this is another important question associated with everything that's going on. So the question says, I already submitted a leave request to have off on December 24th. How does the President's decision to grant holiday leave on Christmas Eve affect me? Right, I think that's. So employees who have requested leave for December 24th will not adjust that time to be a holiday in Slakata. Any lose leave from this new holiday will not be carried over if not used before the end of the leave year and will be forfeited. Employees may choose to donate any unused leave to other employees on the leave donor list, which can be found in the plan of the week. Anything to add there?
Yes, sir. This one just came in from Facebook.
Okay. Okay, this one said, you said that things will be different after COVID is over. Can you elaborate on what that means? So I think that I addressed it, but I don't mind saying it again. So prior to COVID, I'd say 100% of our employees came into work nearly every day. If you were on a telework agreement, then perhaps adhering to the whatever that agreement read like, you were able to telework a certain number of days. I think it was up to
1 day a week.
1 day a week, 2 days per pay period, right? That was the max.
Yes, sir.
If you recall, if you're familiar with the instruction, it also said, that you need to have, a number of conditions at home so that, the conditions at home were conducive to a productive work environment. And then we've had, the lapse of time, like 9 to 10 months now that we've been subject to COVID. You recall the early stages of it, and I remember because we were living it. It's like, okay, everybody go home. To do what? We don't know. Just go home. and stay home for your safety, for your health. And then we quickly adapted. Okay, so there are some things that we can do at work. So we started. Luckily we have a command app, and I think I believe that was a great savior. We're able to put training on the app. We were able to capitalize on many things that the app had to ensure that we're all occupied, right? Because we are bound, when we're paying somebody a salary, to have you gainfully employed. So I think that was remarkably innovative, and I applaud all the efforts that went into ensuring that during that time when everybody was sent home with minimal direction, we all kept going. As we went through it, we adapted. CIO, rolled up their sleeves, produced, a number of assets that, maybe weren't available before. Maybe they were, cameras, additional chargers for phones, etc. I mean, we adapted quickly. Dual monitors for some that needed them. More capable machines for, designers, for example, that need, have a high demand for, a robust, hardware system. And here we are, and I call it, we've developed a number of habits now, where, we have, I walk around the building where we are, there's hardly anyone here. And that's good. I mean, I want you all to remain safe. At some point, when COVID is under control, and even as I say that, I don't know exactly I can't tell exactly what that means. I think, it goes away in part because it's not as persistent. The cases are not as high as they are right now. The deaths are, a little bit lower, the vaccine has been, deployed to the extent that, promotes keeping COVID under control, to the point where, we feel that, it's safe to implement, a lower health protection condition like Bravo or Alpha. Then we're going to start talking about, okay, so here we are, now 11, 12 months after, what is it that, no kidding, have we determined that needs to happen in the workplace at every base, and what things can be done. We don't need the office space to do them. So that's what I call the new normal, right? Because it is going to be different. It's not going to be so take this as just at face value. Let's just assume that everyone that we determine that everyone needs to be in the workplace, and that we and that every one of our employees wants to be in the workplace to perform their duties. I may still have this mandate from higher to reduce my footprint by 20%. So that means that somehow I need to come up with, through my supervisors, through my leadership, with a solution. And that solution means that I need to increase the number of people that are teleworking. And that will be through mutual agreement, right? Through, eligibility to work, through a series that promotes that type of work, being performed at home, and the right conditions at those locations. So that's what I call the new normal. At the very least, we might be forced in the next couple of years to reduce our footprint, and at that point, we need to figure out how we're going to do it. So, that alone, sets conditions for a new normal. But again, I think the new normal is going to be an incorporation of many other things, to include, an honest assessment of, like I said before, what can be done at home and what that means. So, if I can elaborate more, and I'll see if XO or BD, kick me in the shin under the table. But I can see an environment in which some offices or cubicles are permanently assigned. I can see an environment where we have a row of cubicles, offices that have no name tags, and potentially even no hardware in them. That are like hotel rooms where somebody comes in, plugs their computer, does a synchronization of software systems, etc., and then goes back home. And then I can see also a row or group of cubicles, offices that are shared. So, on Monday, Wednesdays and Fridays, somebody's utilizing them, and then on Tuesdays and Thursdays, somebody else is utilizing them. And once again, they may have 2 names on it, they may have 3 names on it, and so with that comes, what do we do with phone lines, right? So there's a lot to be figured out yet, and again, I can tell you what's on my mind, but I still need to confer. I still need to see what's in the realm of possible to give you a final plan. So I hope that answers the question. That's the best I've got right now. Anything to add?
I would just say that your supervisors should be having, your first line supervisors should be having these discussions with you now on the new normal and approaching those that are potentially eligible to telework about an in-state post-COVID. So if you're not having those conversations, please start. That's all I ask.
Okay. So the question, there's 2 questions kind of with the same topic. One says, I heard that we're receiving less money to support payroll for employees in FY21. Am I in danger of losing my job? The other question is there any new info that can be passed regarding future manpower levels in light of budget constraints since transitioning BSOs? So I think regarding budgets, what I can tell you is that I'm 100% positive they're not going to increase. Understand that our operations are largely driven by a forecast of what we're going to be doing in the future. So we're constantly conferring and determining and running algorithms and and a little bit of criteria to determine with what manpower are we able to meet the mission, and largely we're talking about like a year from now, right? So I'm careful to not say that I think our budget has decreased, but I do think that maybe our budget as received today does not provide us the personnel that we forecast we need for the future workload. And that statement in itself is very complex because again I think that we have the professionalism in our workforce and the capabilities and the know-how to accomplish any task. And this is not about doing more with less, but this is about doing things maybe a little bit more intelligently and taking deliberate risk. So I don't believe the budgets have decreased, but I do know that we've been constrained a little bit more in how we're able to spend our given resources. So I don't want to go back to talk about Navy Working Capital Fund, but Navy Working Capital Fund did give us some flexibilities that allowed us to take some risk in some areas and and offsetting them the following year or the year after. Now it's more of a we have a budget and that's what we need to execute this year, and at the end of the year it's end of story, and I can't go back and offset any risks taken before. So for those that say am I in danger of losing my job, I would say that should be the least of your worries, because in 30 years I've been witness of many instances where we had constrained budgets or A76 studies or many other external factors that were affecting and threatening what we do and how we do it, and numbers and personnel. I would say that in all those instances that I witnessed, observed, experienced, there was always a very deliberate process. I can't remember ever going through a significant reduction in force. And when it happened, if it happened, limited numbers, and we had gone through an exhaustive process to ensure nobody lost their jobs. But I think it's too early to even talk about that. I think we've got a lot of work to do in terms of, allocation of funds to the right sources. Negotiations with headquarters and CNIC before we even have, to make any sort of determination like that. So do know that, this has Navy-wide attention. At the very least, I can guarantee you, Admiral Porca, our chief, is intimately involved, personally involved, to ensure that, none of this happens. So, but it is a time to be very, very mindful and watchful to ensure that we spend our budget how it's supposed to. Anything to add on?
Yeah, I'd like to add just a piece, Skipper. So at the 100,000 foot level, what I can tell you, because we're working, the comptroller and I are working every minute of every day trying to get resolution on what the damage is. But understand, the problem is alignment of money in buckets. So at its highest level, at the 100,000 foot level, we can afford what we have on board. The problem is the alignment of dollars. And we can't necessarily afford what we believe we need to have to do the work. So therein lies the problem. So we have what we consider to be the requirement, which is much larger than what we have on board. And there's a delta, there's a variance between that. So we have all these moving pieces. And we've been able to get additional money. Half of our problem's been cut. Our problem's been cut in half since the 1st of October. So, we continue to tell our story. We're doing risk assessment now. And at the end of the day, I think we'll be successful with that, no harm. All I can promise you is I think everybody has a job. It just may not be the job that you're in today.
Right.
So we have enough money to pay for everybody that's on board.
Okay, so that we are live. And I appreciate these comments. There's a comment saying, hey, consider cutting short because the stream is terrible, lots of missed audio. So, hey, I apologize if that's the case, if you're missing some of the message. It is very important. So, we might record a video with the same message on Theox and put it on YouTube. Again, this is one of the challenges. I talked about challenges earlier. I talked about communication. This is one of the challenges, in trying to do good. Maybe it doesn't come out the way we intended to. So another comment says there were sound issues when I talked about leave on Christmas Eve. XO, you want to address?
Hopefully you can hear me. If you have questions, please read this week's plan of the week. Anyone with an email address will receive that not later than tomorrow, and then it will be published in Common Areas. We've got a note specifically on the federal holiday on 24 December.
And that's another great point. I was going to talk about that. So that's another great point. You should know I personally put a lot of pressure on the command and the PAO staff to ensure that our message makes it, across and multiple audio outlets. So we've got the YouTube videos that we're recording. We've got a lot of information on the app. I personally review CHOP, and it's my final release on the Pulse. You got one last Friday. You're going to get another one tomorrow. Again, that's me talking to you all. These are not words written by somebody else. That's my voice over to you all. So please use all and any means available to get the word. And of course, there's the good old chain of command, right? So hopefully you're getting word that way as well.
I would just like to remind folks that in addition to commenting on, you can put your questions in Facebook Live. As the skipper said earlier, you can put them in the CO suggestion box. And again, we'll get information out in the plan of the week and otherwise for exactly how to do that.
And please make sure it's our CO suggestion box and not the chief's, please.
Yeah, no, and that's a fair comment. And and for those of you that are out there and listening, I ask you, give me the chance to address your issues before you go higher. Again, that's it's the end result is we're still answering your question locally. It just it just comes down. So again, everybody has the ability to do so. I just say I plead to you, allow me the chance to address your issues. We'll take two more questions and then we'll cut out. So our next question is there a timetable on when employees are expected to return to work due to the pandemic? Short answer is no. And it's a complex, so that's a simple short answer. The real answer is, it's really location specific, right? So we're in a very, very large region. Many of you a few weeks ago were under Bravo conditions. Now everybody is back at Charlie. Jacksonville never left Charlie. Guantanamo has never left Charlie or
Bravo.
Yeah, Bravo. But Guantanamo has longer.
That's right.
Conditions despite being in Bravo. So I would say number one, no. Two, be patient. I know this is frustrating, but be patient. Morris Pulse is going to talk about taking care of yourself. I think that's the one thing that's completely under our control that we can do. Do your best to stay healthy, and then we'll keep you informed. But understand that we might have a situation like we did a few weeks ago where some of our team members in other locations that are not Jacksonville are under conditions that are different than those in other locations. So we do adhere by the what's driven via the basis, and because that's how that works when it comes to health protection conditions, which will drive the occupancy at every one of the commands in the building. Okay, and the last question says, as a civilian employee, am I allowed to travel outside of my local area to visit family for the holidays? So I don't have an exact answer to that question. So what I can say is, everyone should discuss their holiday travels with their supervisor. He or she will be able to, if they don't have the answer, consult with hire. But at the end of the day, there are a number of CDC guidelines that are in place to, minimize the risk to yourself, your family, and your coworkers. And for military, there's also a number of, matrices that we're following to assess the risks that we're exposed to. And it's actually, a very good tool, and it kind of opens your eyes to, how, your particular risk increases depending on what kind of activities you engage in, right? So, again, CDC guidelines, are a good, baseline resource. And I'd say, generally speaking, if you're adhering to those, you're going to be, probably a lower chance of contracting COVID. Okay.
If I may, I would add, so we are under United States Fleet Forces Command, also known as NAV North, for how, we military must respond, the restrictions that are placed on us in response to the COVID-19 pandemic. In the executive order, order that came out from NAV North Fleet Forces, they specifically write that those same behavioral requirements for our active duty military personnel are also strongly recommended for our civilian counterparts as well as our military dependents. So that's a long way of saying, yes, you may leave your area. As the skipper said, you've got to talk with your supervisor so they know what you're doing, they know where you're going, and you have an adult conversation about risks and avoiding reckless activities. But again, I'll say the requirements for behavior for military are encouraged for our civilian counterparts. Jeff?
I mean, I would add, we're wanting you to telework the 2 weeks after, the holidays for a reason. So, it's kind of like a forced ROM. So if you are participating in gatherings and that kind of stuff, we're minimizing as a command the potential for exposure in our workplace. We know that there's nothing we can do, that the potential for virus is going to go, for positives is going to go up. But we asked you, to do everything you can to keep from spreading it. So that's in general why. So if you're traveling and you're around a bunch of people, the expectation is that you're not coming into work after you've done that.
And if I may, I just sent out an email to leaders and supervisors about that period from 28 December through 8 January. One of the notes in there is the skipper talked about the app earlier. We have loaded, thank you very much, we loaded up 11 FY21 mandatory training courses into the app. So as we had done previously, but not during the week after Thanksgiving, you can go into the app while you're home, while you're on telework. If you're not a normal teleworker, you can go into the app, you can download those trainings, you can look at that training, and there's directions in there for how to send an email to our training staff that says, I completed this training, please give me credit for it. So that's something that you can do during those 2 weeks while you are romming or staying at home, teleworking, and minimizing the spread.
Okay, so ready to wrap up?
Yes, sir. I think so.
Okay, so again, we had this all hands centered around, me debriefing you on our defense equal opportunity survey. So I want to thank you all once again. 57%. I call that a success. I think it's phenomenal. Thank you for letting me know how you feel. Thank you for giving me your perspective. It gives me a roadmap now to navigate and through the command, through you all, improve, get better. That's what I was after. So I appreciate the candid feedback. This is something that will stay alive, and this is not done and over kind of thing. I listed for all of you. I read what I want to focus on, and my plea to you is those same 6 points. I ask you to, within your circle of influence, live them and see how you can help me improve the climate in the command. As I make that statement, I'm not saying that it was bad. I'm just saying there's always room for improvement, and I can't think of one person that does not want to make their life better. Whether it's work life, in this case, our work life. So that's what we're after. And once again, I thank you for it. And I look forward to, again, continuing to meet many of you in person, virtually, whatever conditions we're under. It's always enjoyable to, see another team member's, face, another team member's voice. And again, look forward to my continued service with you. It is my honor to serve you as your commanding officer. And I look forward once again to, to our journey together here for the next year and a half. That's all I have. I hope everyone has a good afternoon, a good weekend, and a very, very joyful holiday season.
Happy holidays.
Happy holidays.